and welcome to the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson. That's me. I'm extraordinarily happy to just be in the studio behind the camera and it not be because church is snowed in or we're snowed out or anything like that. The weather today was great, cold but great, and we were able to go and just worship in church and had a pretty great crowd there, and today the worship was just, man, it was just beautiful. It was just wonderful. Everything you want. And so I know I needed it, and so many more have commented about it, and so I'm extraordinarily thankful to be able to say we had church in our building this morning. And we are praying and looking for, actually, we have a unique problem. Our church is growing pretty fast, and we're to the point where we have to start looking for another church and another building. And, it's amazing when you think about it, how the Lord can lead you into particular avenues and down particular avenues, and as we go down those avenues and we just take stock in what we're doing and inventory of where we're at and what we have going on and the blessings that are in our life, we realize that God's hand is on every aspect of our life, and that He's moving things and changing things and helping us in ways we don't even see coming. And then, we started this church we started in my driveway, and we were just having church in the driveway, and we'd have, sometimes 15. I think the most we had was like 17 under our carport, and it was wonderful, but it was warm and all that. And then as in October, we went to this church, and it was all but vacant for 3+ years, and it's sad to me. I'm not saying this as anything, a slight on anything or whatever, and I'm not trying to over dramatize anything. I'm just saying this building was all but vacant. They were having service there sometimes, and then it'd be maybe 2 or 3, 4 people, and I know that that's expensive, and I know it is, and so they were paying the money out of their own pocket to have church, and then we had the opposite problem. We were having church, and we didn't have a building, and they had a building, but they really didn't have a church, a congregation, and so we didn't merge. They kind of are doing their own thing, and that's fine. That's what their convictions are, and that's fine. And I'm not saying, anything bad about that. But we kind of moved in and just took over the finances and everything else. We really started a whole new church, and we're just using the building, and we're renting the building or leasing the building, and the Lord is growing us, and we're to the point now where we have to really look at newer, bigger facilities, which is a great problem for a church to have. And that's why on the last episode, one of the things I spoke about was, how some of these failing churches should merge and keep the Lord in the center of everything, all their decision making, and then grow into a healthy church, and then as that church grows, to split at that point, and now you can divide back up into the previous buildings if that's the way it goes. In some cases it does, some it does not, but if that's the way it goes, now you have 2 healthy churches that have grown out of the ashes of what looked like failing churches, or what was failing churches. But I guess the question is, how does the church get there? What happens to, that a church would be in decline? And today I'm not necessarily, I didn't start this podcast and I didn't pray about it, about talking about, the failing churches or anything. I actually was going to talk about the sermon that I preached on this morning, but I'm going to continue down this inspired path here. But what causes the church to fail? If you look at the letters that Paul wrote and the other apostles wrote, you can see that there's a lot of like threats. And what I mean by that is they warned about particular threats, and those particular threats, although you can put some on the devil, yeah, he's going to combat the church, but that's a given threat. That's a known threat. Where the unknown threats come in is us, people being people. And the unknown part, the factor, the wild card is always us and how we affect the church and how we become the enemy within the church. And it's, and a lot of times you can reduce that down to because of vanity, and vanity causes us to think along the lines where we say me, my, and I a lot, instead of we, us, and he. I think history has proven, the Bible especially, the most valuable historical document ever, clearly, has proven that when a seed of vanity is planted, which you could say because of the carnality of man and the corruption of man, that seed is there, ready to be watered. And when that seed is watered, and when that seed is growing, it grows like a weed. Perhaps the image of the ark is provoked in your mind, as it is in mine. And when I think about the ark, I think about how the Lord told Noah to pitch it from within and without. And that the threat of water may come from the outside, but what's going on the inside? And that we need to protect the inside of our ark, that church. We need to protect the inside of the church just as much as we protect the outside of the church. And how do we do that? What's that look like when you do that? Well, to me, that looks like cultivating good relationships inside the church. That means proper discipleship in the church and loving on each other, having each other's backs, checking each other when we're out of line. Self-policing is what we used to call it in the Army. But in the grand scheme of things, as you look at how the church is currently being ran today, and the governance of the church, and all the different the bylaws and the traditions in the church, and all of those things, there's a whole lot of opportunity for toxicity to enter the church. And then when toxicity enters the church, you find yourself trying to backpedal, and you're always on your back foot, and you're never in the offensive where you need to be, because if the enemy can keep you on the defense, you are not throwing offense. And that's where, the problem lies, is that we always put the cart before the horse because we don't have the structure set, and we're not putting Christ first. And if we do just simply what Christ commanded us to do, and that's love one another as ourselves. He said, people are going to know that you're of me because you love each other. People are going to know that you're a follower of me because you love each other. And when we're not loving each other and when we're not decent and in order and we're not putting the structure in the church where it belongs and we're not establishing a good footstool or a good foundation so that we can build on top of that, then we're really just creating a house of cards that is just waiting on one strong wind. And oftentimes the wind comes from within. And that's what's sad. And I don't like having to talk about that. Because I'd much rather talk about uplifting things. So let's change gears. As toxic as a situation can be and as tough as situations can be in church, I stand by my Savior and say, where toxicity is currently, there's hope. Hope of a guaranteed future if you commit to turning things around the right way. How do you turn things around the right way? There's only one way, and that is to get back in alignment with that Bible. That is to commit full force, full tilt, as I say, to move forward with God. And here's how you do that. Just like any infected wound, you've got to clean the wound. You can't go forward without understanding that there is a problem that you have to fix. Here's the problem with today's modern church. Here's the problem with today's modern man. Is that we would much rather forget or act like we're forgetting that there's a problem and just try to focus on moving on. You can't do that with a bum leg. If you've got infection in your calf and there's a problem there, it's an open sore, it's festered, it's nasty, you're getting the red streak and all that other kind of stuff. And if you're in the medical field, you know what I'm talking about. When you have that heavily big infected, let's just say it's like a wound the size of my fist, which God forbid you ever have anything like that, because, and I know I've had some injuries and whatever, but that's a lot of infection. When you have an infection like that and you're like, man, I'm just gonna act like this wound doesn't exist. I'm just gonna keep pushing forward. Guess what that does? It doesn't make the wound disappear. Instead, what it does is it makes you look like an idiot. And you can fix that. And it's super simple. The first step of fixing a problem is admitting you've got a problem. I don't know who wrote that, but they're a genius. I got a calf, got a hole in it. It's getting infected. What do I need to do? A damaged calf. What do I need to do? Oh, okay. Step one, take the cover off the wound, look at the wound, and then you're going to have to start cleaning the wound. Is that going to hurt? Yes. Is it going to be a tough moment to get through? There's going to be some tough moments to get through. It's probably going to be the worst hour, half hour, 45 minutes of your life. But it's got to be done. You don't ignore the fact that you have a problem. You face it head on and you charge full tilt at it and you destroy the problem. You cannot destroy a problem by acting like it doesn't exist. And that's what we do as the church. We look at a toxic situation over here. Guess what? If I don't acknowledge it, it'll work itself out and I'll just keep moving forward. That's not the answer. There's some things that you can allow things to work out. And I'll be the first one to tell you. That's a judicial kind of conversation that you have to have. We're going to let this play out and see how it works. Because a certain amount of conflict is a good and healthy thing. Why? Because it provokes growth. It promotes growth. But unhealthy toxicity has to be dealt with. There's a church in the area that had a situation where they had to part ways with a member of their staff. And when they parted ways with the member of their staff, people had questions, and they were just we're not going to answer anything. We're not going to answer anything. You're just going to have to act like that didn't exist. We're looking forward. We're not looking in the rearview mirror. That's what I hear. I'm like, okay, so now you just opened it up for a bunch of rumors. And we're in the South, son. Small town, South, and it's Baptist. You're going to get rumors. And people are going to talk, and they're going to spin this stuff up and whatever. And guess what? Now you just open it up to where whatever they come up with is the truth. Or you could go ahead and start laying down some facts. Hey, we have a problem. That's step one. Here's the problem. Now you're cleaning the wound. You can rip the bandage off. Expose the infection. Here's the problem. Blank, 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 whatever it is. And now you're cleaning the wound. Finally, at some point, you get past the infection. All of it's cleared out. You get down to the blood and all of it. And yeah, you know what? It ain't a great situation to be in. And sometimes you got to hurt a little bit more in order to fix and heal. But once you do that, now you put your medicine on it and you close the wound up. Maybe needs a couple stitches. Maybe you just need to hold it together, wrap it up real good, put some good gauze on it, and you're good to go. Same thing for this church situation. Hey, we got a problem. We had to let so-and-so go because of this. We're not going to go into all the details because we could be here for 16 and a half hours, but here's the deal. This is what we know. And now that we know this, we're moving in this direction. And if that means we need to have a vote or we need to do this, that, or the other thing, then let's decide that as a church and move forward. Is everybody okay with that? And if everybody's okay with that, then you go forward. If everybody's not okay with that, now you got to drop back and punt. And you got to say, we got to figure out what is going to be okay for us to move forward. And that's the proper way to do it. Because it's decent and in order. And I'm not saying that's a staying in tradition, and I'm not saying there's clear Bible to guide us in that. I mean, you could look at how Moses led the children of Israel out of Egypt, and you can look at how they went in the wilderness, and you can see that there was good counsel there, and that they had to make some tough decisions and things like that. God was speaking directly to Moses, and Moses spoke through Aaron to everybody else, and then he appointed judges and everything to keep the peace and all of that, and then as time progressed, you still had your judges, and you still had kings, and you still had prophets, and you still had folks who were elders and leaders, and you even had prophetesses and all that, and it moved on to the church age, and then you get your deacons and your elders and your bishops and your pastors and your preachers and evangelists and all these people that are doing good godly work, and the structure to the church gets modeled after is still Israel in the wilderness. And the church should be still running under the same structure, but it was decent and in order. And there's no reason to change that. You know what happens? Let's go back to the beginning. Vanity. The problems start compounding when you introduce or water the seed of vanity. You know how you solve it? Expose the vanity. Get back on track. Get it under the blood. And move on. And there's nothing in that Bible that says all of this process is simple. On the contrary, there's plenty of Bible that says we're going to have conflict, that we're going to have problems, that we're going to face trials, and we're going to face tribulation, and we're going to face all kinds of issues, backbiting, and everything else. If the early church was facing it during the time of Paul, who are we to try to think that we're going to be exempt from all of those issues? We're not exempt from anything. But we're held to a standard, and that standard is that we do things decent and in order and within the alignment of the Holy Bible and to the glory of God the Father. That's what we're supposed to do. And if we're doing anything other than bringing glory to God the Father, then we're missing the mark. And we're going to have to fix that. And how do you fix that? By being clear, honest, transparent, candid, upfront, right there in the middle of everything. This is what we're doing. Here's the vision. Who's in alignment with the vision? If you're in alignment with this vision, then let's push forward. If you're not in alignment with this vision, then either A, the vision's not in alignment with the Bible, or you're not in alignment with the Bible, and we've got to fix one or the other. Hey, the vision's in alignment with the Bible. You're not in alignment with the Bible. You can either get in alignment with the Bible, or you can go somewhere else. But this is the vision, and it's in alignment with the Bible, and this is the way we're going to go. And if you've got good biblical proof that it's decent, in order, and in alignment with the Word, and gives glory unto God the Father, then by golly, go with it. Excuse me. But if the vision's not in alignment, and your vision is, and your word is, what you're saying is in alignment with the Bible, then the vision has to change. Because my God is not the author of confusion. Confusion comes from the enemy and from us. And sometimes we're the enemy. So, I will say that pushing forward for Christ isn't the easiest thing to do in the world. Oftentimes it comes with monumental decisions that affect your whole life on a lot of levels. And I don't envy those people who have had to make some of those big monumental decisions, and they might have erred in one way or the other and not stepped in alignment with the will of God, and they've fallen or they've lost so much. I don't envy that. I pray for those people because I've seen those people, good people, make bad decisions, and their life goes in a wild disarray. But I've also seen those people make incredible decisions that are in the will of God, that move in a direction, and then their life take off like a rocket. And I don't envy anybody, but I think, God, since you're not a respecter of person, and nobody's any better than anybody else, I have faith that if you can do it for them, you can do it for me. And I hold on to that kind of hope. That if I play my play my cards close to the chest, and I trust the Lord, and I don't give the enemy any more room than I possibly can. There's an ignorant side of our brain, and it's that side of our brain that is so easy and provoked to the stimulation of the world, and I try to crucify that part of myself daily, and I try to do my best to take my thoughts captive and guard my words and actions, because I want to I want to be the good reflection of God. And don't get me wrong, we all fall short, we all do, and all that, and I'm not perfect, and I'm not even. I don't even know that I could be perfect or even if trying is going to be any better, but I do try. And I trust the Lord. And He has shown me time and time again that even though I might fall, I might fail, and I might step to the left or to the right just a little too far and out of His will, that He stands ready to put me back on track. And I pray that some of these churches that have found themselves in similar situations get with God, and then maybe recommit to getting back on track. Might they have to make some tough decisions and maybe cut a few people loose and stuff like that? Yeah. And that's not an easy thing to do. But it's a whole sight better than knowing you're going in the wrong direction and just not saying anything and complicitly helping the church steer in the wrong direction. That's unacceptable. And God is not mocked. If you're doing the wrong thing at the helm of His church, He will put a stop to it. He will. And when He does, let me just say, pride cometh before the fall. And the fall, man, I don't envy that either. I hope they get it right. Listen, I love you. God loves you. This has been the Unqualified Podcast with Leon Wilson.